Olivia Wilson stood in her sun-drenched kitchen coffee mug in one hand, smartphone in the other, staring at the banking app that had become both her salvation and her prison. The automatic transfer had gone through again, $1,300 pulled from her account to her parents' landlord right on schedule, first of the month. 8 years of this routine as predictable as sunrise. Another $400 for utilities would follow tomorrow. She took a sip of coffee, black and bitter just the way she needed it this morning. "Mom, have you seen my math notebook?" Harper called from down the hallway. At 12, her daughter was all gangly limbs and serious eyes, growing up too fast in a world that Olivia was determined to make safe. "Check your backpack's side pocket," Olivia replied quickly, closing the app before her daughter could see the numbers. Harper didn't need to know how tight things sometimes got, despite Olivia's $115,000 salary as a remote software engineer. The divorce 8 years ago had left them financially stable but emotionally raw. Olivia had promised herself that Harper would never feel the uncertainty she had felt growing up. The morning sunlight streamed through the kitchen window of their modest Tucson home, catching the dust particles dancing in the air. Outside, the desert landscape stretched toward the mountains, beautiful and harsh, not unlike the choices Olivia had made in her life. "Found it?" Harper appeared in the kitchen, notebook in hand, her dark hair pulled into a messy ponytail. She grabbed a banana from the fruit bowl and began peeling it. "Are we visiting Grandpa and Grandma this weekend?" Olivia hesitated. "Not this weekend, sweetie. Grandpa has a doctor's appointment and Grandma is picking up extra shifts at the grocery store." It wasn't entirely a lie. Her father, William, had been battling diabetes for years, his health deteriorating with each passing month. Her mother, Eleanor, still rang up groceries part-time at the Southside Fry's, her once vibrant face now permanently etched with worry lines. What Olivia didn't tell Harper was that the doctor's appointment was another checkup for William's worsening diabetes. Medicare covered some expenses, but his specialized medication ate half their Social Security income. Hence the $1,300 monthly transfers from Olivia's account money that could have gone toward Harper's college fund or maybe even a vacation that didn't involve visiting struggling relatives. "Will Uncle Marcus be there?" Harper asked, her eyes brightening. Despite his spotty presence in their lives, Marcus had always been the fun uncle, bringing small gifts and big stories whenever he did show up. "Not sure, honey. He's pretty busy with his new shop." Another half-truth. Olivia hadn't heard from her brother in weeks, not since he'd sent a flurry of Instagram posts showing off his pottery store's new display window in Barrio Viejo. As Harper finished her breakfast and gathered her things for school, Olivia's mind drifted back to how she'd ended up as the family's financial backstop. After her divorce from David, who had promptly remarried and moved to Phoenix, minimizing both his presence and child support in Harper's life, Olivia had pulled herself together remarkably well. Her remote coding job had been a godsend. No office politics, no daycare rush, just clean code and regular paychecks. It was around that time that William's health had taken its first serious downturn. A minor stroke followed by the diabetes diagnosis. Eleanor had called Olivia in tears, bills spread across their kitchen table. "We might lose the house," she'd sobbed. "The mortgage." Olivia had stepped in without hesitation, helping them downsize to a rental that she could subsidize. It was supposed to be temporary. That was 8 years ago. Now it was just another line item in her budget, like Harper's braces or the car payment. The irony wasn't lost on her. Growing up, Olivia had been the responsible one, the straight-A student who'd worked part-time jobs throughout high school and college. Marcus had been the golden child, charismatic creative, perpetually forgiven for his missteps because he was finding himself. Their parents had dipped into Olivia's college fund twice to bail Marcus out of failed ventures, promising to repay her. They never did. "Mom?" "You're doing that thing with your face again," Harper said, breaking into her thoughts. "What thing?" Olivia asked, forcing a smile. "That thinking too hard thing, where your forehead gets all crinkly." Harper shouldered her backpack. "Is everything okay?" "Everything's fine, just planning my work schedule." Olivia lied smoothly, walking her daughter to the door. "Have a great day at school. Love you." "Love you too," Harper called over her shoulder, heading down the path to the waiting school bus. Alone in the quiet house, Olivia opened her laptop and began her workday. Lines of code were straightforward, predictable. Unlike family, unlike the text that pinged on her phone an hour later. "Marcus, hey sis, you free to meet up today? Got something big to show you." Olivia sighed. In Marcus speak, something big usually meant something expensive or something impossible, but she replied anyway. Olivia working until 4. Can do coffee after that. Marcus perfect. Your place at 5 bringing plans. Plans. The word sent a small tremor of anxiety through her. Marcus and his plans had cost the family thousands over the years. The food truck idea that never got past the loan application. The vape shop that closed after 3 months. But still he was her brother. And maybe this time would be different. She replied with a thumbs-up emoji and turned back to her code, trying to ignore the familiar knot of dread forming in her stomach. At precisely 5:12 p.m., Marcus Wilson's distinctive knock echoed through Olivia's front door, 3 quick raps pause, then 2 slower ones. It was a pattern he'd developed as a teenager, his personal signature. Some things never changed. "It's open," Olivia called from the kitchen where she was helping Harper with her science project, a diorama of the desert ecosystem complete with tiny paper saguaros and a miniature roadrunner made from clay. Marcus strode in all confident smiles and expensive cologne. At 27, he still had the same boyish charm that had gotten him out of trouble his entire life. Dark hair, artfully tousled designer jeans, slightly distressed, and a crisp button-down that probably cost more than Olivia's entire outfit. In his hands, he carried a glossy folder and what looked like rolled-up blueprints. "Uncle Marcus," Harper abandoned her project and ran to him. He scooped her up in a hug, spinning her around once before setting her down. "Harpy, look at you getting taller every time I see you," he said, ruffling her hair. "You're going to be taller than your mom soon." "That wouldn't be difficult," Olivia said dryly, standing at her modest 5'3". She wiped her hands on a dish towel. "Coffee's ready." "Actually," Marcus said, his eyes gleaming with excitement. "Got anything stronger? This calls for a celebration." Olivia raised an eyebrow but retrieved the half-empty bottle of Cabernet from the fridge. "Harper, why don't you take your project to your room for a bit? Uncle Marcus and I need to talk." Once Harper had reluctantly relocated, Olivia poured 2 glasses of wine and sat at the kitchen table. "All right, let's see these big plans of yours." Marcus spread the glossy folder open with a flourish. Inside were professional-looking photos of hand-thrown ceramic mugs, bowls glazed in desert hues, and artistic planters. Then came the blueprints, a floor plan for a storefront in Barrio Viejo, Tucson's historic district. Prime tourist territory. "Pottery?" Olivia asked, surprised. It wasn't what she'd expected. "When did you get into pottery?" "Been taking classes for months," Marcus replied, his enthusiasm infectious. "Remember Jamie from high school? He runs this studio downtown, and I've been apprenticing with him. I've got a knack for it, Liv. A real talent." He pulled out a business plan next, complete with projected revenue streams, startup costs, and a marketing strategy. The numbers were laid out in neat rows: $70,000 startup costs, break even in 18 months, projected profit margin of 30% after 2 years. "I've already got interest from 3 local boutique hotels to stock their gift shops," he continued, barely pausing for breath. "And there's a huge online market for artisanal homeware. The location in Barrio Viejo is perfect, right on the tourist path next to that famous breakfast place with the line around the block every weekend." Olivia sipped her wine, slowly studying the numbers. They were more detailed than his previous ventures, she had to admit. "Where are you living now?" she asked. Last she'd heard, he'd been couch surfing after his warehouse job fell through. "Been staying with Hamie above the studio," Marcus admitted. "But this is my chance, Liv. My real chance to build something." "And the $70,000, she asked, cutting to the chase. Marcus leaned forward, his expression earnest. "I've got collateral this time. Something solid." He pulled out his phone and showed her a photo of a sleek black BMW 2019 model parked in front of Jamie's studio. Olivia nearly choked on her wine. "You bought a BMW when how?" And here came the first twist in Marcus's tale. He shifted in his seat, his confidence wavering slightly for the first time. "It was a gift, sort of. From a client at the studio, this tech guy who really liked my work. He was moving to Europe and offered me a deal I couldn't refuse." The words came too quickly, Marcus's tell, when he wasn't being entirely truthful. "Marcus," Olivia said firmly, using the tone that had always cut through his excuses. "The truth. Now." He sighed, running a hand through his hair. "Fine. I took out a loan for it. But it's in my name, paid up and worth about $45,000 now. Perfect collateral for a business loan." He hesitated. The thing is, the banks aren't exactly lining up to lend to someone with my credit history. And there it was. The real reason for the visit, the plan's the unusual level of preparation. Marcus needed a co-signer. He needed Olivia. "You want me to co-sign a $70,000 loan?" she said flatly. "Family helps family, right?" Marcus replied the familiar refrain that had echoed through their childhood home whenever one of his schemes needed funding. From the hallway came the soft sound of Harper humming to herself as she worked on her project, blissfully unaware of the tension building in the kitchen. "Let me think about it," Olivia said finally, closing the folder. "This is a lot to process, Marcus." "Of course," he said smoothly, but she could see the disappointment in his eyes. "Take your time. But the space in Barrio Viejo won't stay available for long. It's prime real estate." After Marcus left, promising Harper he'd bring her a handmade mug next time Olivia sat alone at the kitchen table, the business plan still open before her. The numbers did look good. Better than anything Marcus had presented before. And he did seem genuinely passionate about pottery, something she hadn't seen in his previous ventures. Her phone pinged with a text from him. "Thanks for listening, Liv. This one's different. I promise. This one's real." She closed the folder and went to check on Harper, finding her carefully painting a tiny clay coyote for her diorama. "Is Uncle Marcus starting a pottery shop?" Harper asked without looking up from her work. "He's thinking about it," Olivia replied carefully. "Cool. He showed me some of his mugs on his phone. They're really pretty." Harper concentrated on applying a delicate stroke of gray paint to the coyote's tail. "Are you going to help him?" Olivia sat on the edge of her daughter's bed watching her work. "I'm not sure yet. It's complicated adult stuff." "Because of money?" Harper asked, more perceptive than Olivia sometimes gave her credit for. "Partly, yes." Harper was quiet for a moment, focused on her painting. Then she said, "You always say family helps family." The echo of Marcus's words of their parents' words sent a chill down Olivia's spine. How many times had that phrase been wielded like a weapon aimed directly at her sense of responsibility? "Yes," she said slowly, "but help should go both ways." That night after Harper was asleep, Olivia called her friend Casey, another single mom from her company, who had become her closest confidant over the years of remote work. $70,000, Casey exclaimed when Olivia explained the situation. "That's not a loan, that's a house down payment." "The business plan is solid," Olivia said, surprising herself by defending Marcus's idea. "And he does have the BMW as collateral." "A car he shouldn't have bought in the first place," Casey pointed out. "Liv, you're already supporting your parents. How much more can you stretch yourself?" It was a valid question, one that kept Olivia awake long after the call ended. She found herself opening her banking app again, calculating and recalculating her budget. With Harper's braces coming up, the possibility of summer camp and the ever-present dread of an emergency taking on co-signing for Marcus's loan was risky. But the next morning, she called him anyway. "I'll meet with the loan officer," she said, cutting off his immediate expression of gratitude. "Just to hear the terms. I'm not committing yet." 3 days later, she sat across from Lane Foster in a downtown office, the loan papers spread between them. Lane was professional and direct, explaining each term with clarity. Marcus sat beside Olivia, unusually quiet, his knee bouncing with nervous energy. 5.5% interest, Lane explained, pointing to the figure on the contract. Monthly payments of $1,400 principal due in full in 5 years. The BMW's title will be held as collateral. "And if the payments aren't made?" Olivia asked, getting to the heart of her concern. "As co-signer, you'd be responsible," Lane said, meeting her eyes directly. "Your credit would be affected, and ultimately you'd need to make good on the loan, or the vehicle would be repossessed and sold at auction to cover the debt." Marcus placed his hand on Olivia's arm. "It won't come to that, Liv. I promise. The first 6 months of projections are conservative. I could make the payments even if business is slower than expected." Olivia looked from the contract to her brother's earnest face, then back to Lane. "Could I have a moment alone with my brother?" Once Lane had stepped out, Olivia turned to Marcus. "Why the BMW? Why not something more reasonable? You had to know you were planning to use it as collateral." Marcus had the grace to look embarrassed. "I needed something to look successful in, to make connections. Image matters in the art world." "So you lied about where you got it." "I stretched the truth," he admitted. "But this pottery business is real, Liv. I've never been more sure of anything. Olivia thought of all the times she'd heard similar promises of all the family dinners interrupted by calls from creditors of the times her parents had drained their savings and hers to rescue Marcus from his latest failed venture. But she also thought of Harper's words, "Family helps family." "If I do this," she said slowly, "there are conditions. I want quarterly meetings with you and Lane to review the financials. I want access to the business accounts to monitor cash flow. And if you miss 2 payments, I'm stepping in not to bail you out, but to protect myself." Marcus nodded eagerly. "Absolutely. Full transparency. You can have whatever access you need." When Lane returned, Olivia signed her name below Marcus's, her hand steady, despite the knot in her stomach. The dealership transferred the car to Marcus's name that afternoon, with the lien noted for the business loan. As he drove off in his BMW radio blasting, Olivia stood in the parking lot watching him go, wondering if she'd just made the biggest mistake of her life or given her brother the chance he truly needed. The first 6 months unfolded better than Olivia had dared to hope. Every month, Marcus's payment hit her account via automatic transfer, $1.04 on the dot. No reminders needed, no excuses given. It was a novel experience in their sibling relationship. Desert Bloom Pottery came to life in the heart of Barrio Viejo, a whitewashed adobe storefront with a rustic wooden sign and large display windows showcasing Marcus's creations. The Instagram account he'd set up grew steadily, approaching 2,000 followers. He posted stories daily midnight sessions at the kiln, his hands caked with clay shelves, gradually filling with glazed mugs and bowls in the rich earthy tones of the Sonoran Desert. Olivia and Harper visited the shop during its first month, Harper wide-eyed at the transformation of the once empty space. Marcus gave them a tour, proudly showing off the pottery wheel in the back room where he offered weekend workshops for tourists. "This one's for you," he told Harper, presenting her with a small, perfectly formed bowl glazed in turquoise with a javelina etched into the bottom, her favorite desert animal. "Did you make it yourself?" Harper asked, turning the bowl carefully in her hands. "Every piece in this shop is made by these hands," Marcus confirmed, displaying his clay-stained fingers with pride. "This is the real deal, Harp." Olivia had to admit she was impressed. The shop had a cohesive aesthetic, and the pieces were genuinely beautiful. Tourists wandered in and out during their visit, several making purchases. The credit card reader on Marcus's tablet chimed repeatedly, "Actual sales, actual revenue." During their first quarterly meeting with Lane, Foster Marcus presented a neat folder of receipts and a spreadsheet tracking sales against expenses. They were slightly ahead of projections for the first quarter. "I'm expanding the Desert Bloom collection next month," Marcus explained, showing them sketches of new designs. "And I've got 3 more hotels interested in wholesale orders." Lane nodded approvingly. "Keep this trajectory and you'll be in excellent shape by the end of year 1. As they left the meeting, Olivia felt a weight lifting from her shoulders. Maybe this time really was different. Maybe Marcus had finally found his calling. "Told you," Marcus said as they walked to their cars, nudging her playfully with his elbow. "You worried for nothing. It's early days yet," Olivia cautioned, ever the practical one. "But yes, it's a good start." "Hey, I'm thinking of hosting a family dinner at the shop next month," Marcus said. "A little celebration. You and Harper, Mom and Dad. Maybe even invite that friend of yours, Casey, right?" Olivia raised an eyebrow. "Casey. Why?" Marcus shrugged a little too casually. "You talk about her a lot. Thought it would be nice to meet her." "She's married Marcus." "Can't a guy just want to meet his sister's friend?" He grinned, the same charming smile that had gotten him out of trouble throughout childhood. "Anyway, think about the dinner. It would mean a lot to have everyone there." The idea of bringing her parents, Marcus, and her carefully constructed separate life together made Olivia uneasy, but she nodded noncommittally. "I'll check our schedule." She didn't tell Marcus that she'd been avoiding their parents lately. The monthly transfers continued, but she'd begged off Sunday dinners with increasingly flimsy excuses. The truth was, every visit left her emotionally drained. Eleanor's passive-aggressive comments about how seldom they saw Harper Williams' not-so-subtle hints about additional medical expenses not covered by insurance. It was a carefully choreographed guilt trip that Olivia had been performing her part in for too many years. 2 weeks after the quarterly meeting, Marcus sent a group text with a date for the family dinner. Eleanor responded immediately with excessive enthusiasm and multiple heart emojis. William chimed in that they'd be there with bells on. Olivia replied with a simple, "Sounds good," knowing she'd need to prepare both herself and Harper for the emotional minefield of a full family gathering. The night before the planned dinner, Olivia sat at her kitchen table reviewing her finances. The automatic transfers to her parents' landlord and utilities continued like clockwork. Marcus's loan payments were consistently on time. Her own mortgage, Harper's expenses, and the modest savings she managed to set aside each month were all accounted for. On paper, everything looked stable, yet she couldn't shake a growing sense of unease. "Everything okay?" Casey asked the next day during their virtual coffee break, a standing date between code sprints. They kept their cameras on while working a simulation of office camaraderie in their remote setup. "Just thinking about this family dinner tonight," Olivia admitted, running a hand through her hair. "Marcus is hosting at his shop. It's the first time we've all been together in months." "The pottery place is doing well then?" Casey asked, stirring honey into her tea. They had discussed Marcus's venture extensively over the past months, Casey's initial skepticism gradually giving way to cautious optimism as the consistent loan payments continued. "Surprisingly well," Olivia confirmed. "He's actually following through this time." Casey studied her friend's face through the screen. But I don't know. Something feels off. Maybe I'm just so used to waiting for the other shoe to drop with Marcus that I can't accept things going right." "Trust your instincts," Casey advised. "You know your brother better than anyone." That evening, Olivia and Harper drove to Barrio Viejo, the setting sun painting the adobe buildings in warm gold. Marcus had texted that he was running late from a supplier meeting and had given them the code to the shop's back door. "We can let ourselves in and start setting up," Olivia explained to Harper as they parked behind the building. The shop's back room was dimly lit, the pottery wheel sitting idle under a tarp. Boxes of clay and glazes lined the shelves alongside tools and half-finished pieces. But something was off. A thick layer of dust covered the work table, as if it hadn't been used in weeks. Harper moved into the main showroom ahead of Olivia, flipping on the lights. "Mom?" "This is weird." Olivia joined her immediately, seeing what had caused Harper's concern. The once vibrant displays were noticeably depleted. Several shelves stood empty, others held only a few scattered pieces. The chalkboard menu that had once advertised the Desert Bloom collection and workshop schedule was wiped clean. "Maybe he sold a lot recently," Harper suggested, but her voice held doubt. Olivia moved to the tablet that served as the shop's point of sale, opening the sales app. The last transaction was dated over 3 weeks ago. She pulled out her phone and called Marcus. It went straight to voicemail. She tried again with the same result. "Let me try Grandma," she told Harper, dialing her mother's number. Eleanor answered on the second ring. "We're running about 15 minutes late, honey. Your father's insulin needed adjusting." "Mom, are you and Dad meeting us at Marcus's shop?" "What? No, he said dinner was at your place. Said the shop was being renovated or something. We're bringing dessert." Olivia felt a familiar sinking sensation. "I'll call you right back," she said, ending the call abruptly. At that moment, her phone chimed with a banking alert. She opened the app to find a notification auto payment from Marcus Wilson failed due to insufficient funds. The other shoe had dropped. A quick search through her contacts found Jamie Marcus's pottery instructor, whose name she remembered from the early business discussions. He answered, sounding confused when she identified herself. "Marcus's sister, yeah, I know who you are. Is everything okay? I'm trying to find Marcus. He was supposed to meet us at the shop, but he's not here. When did you last see him?" There was an uncomfortable pause. "Look, I don't want to get in the middle of family stuff. Please, Jamie, I co-signed a substantial loan for this business. I need to know what's going on." Another pause, then a heavy sigh. "He hasn't been to the studio in over a month. Said he was too busy with the shop to take classes anymore, but..." He trailed off. "But what?" "Well, some of the other students saw him working as a bartender at the Copper Lounge downtown. I figured the shop must not be doing as well as he hoped." Olivia thanked him and hung up, a cold clarity settling over her. She dialed Marcus one more time, unsurprised when it went to voicemail again. This time she left a message. "Marcus, I'm at the shop. Call me immediately." She turned to Harper, who was watching her with worried eyes. "Change of plans, honey. We need to head home. Looks like dinner will be at our place after all." "Is Uncle Marcus okay?" Harper asked as they walked back to the car. "I'm sure he's fine," Olivia replied, keeping her voice steady despite the anger building inside her. "He's just got some explaining to do." On the drive home, her phone finally rang Marcus. "Hey, sis," he said, his voice artificially bright but with an undercurrent of tension. "Got your message. Sorry about the confusion with Mom and Dad. I meant to call you about the change of plans, but things got crazy today. Where are you, Marcus? Olivia asked, putting the call on speaker since she was driving. Just finishing up a meeting with a potential investor. Huge opportunity, Liv. This guy wants to franchise Desert Bloom across the Southwest. Stop lying, she said quietly, aware of Harper listening beside her. I was at the shop. I saw how empty it is. I know the last sale was weeks ago. I know you're bartending at the Copper Lounge. And I just got an alert that your loan payment bounced. The artificial brightness vanished from his voice. Look, it's just a temporary cash flow issue. The summer tourist season is slow, everyone knows that. Things will pick up in fall. Mom? Harper whispered, pointing to her phone. On the screen was Marcus's latest Instagram post, not from a business meeting, but a poolside selfie at a resort time-stamped 2 hours ago. A half-empty cocktail was visible in the foreground, and a woman's arm draped across his shoulders. Olivia's grip tightened on the steering wheel. Harper just showed me your Instagram, Marcus. Business meeting at the resort pool. A long pause, then. I can explain. You can explain to all of us. Mom and Dad are coming to my house for dinner, apparently on your invitation. You have 30 minutes to get there too, or I'm calling Lane Foster in the morning and reporting the loan default. She ended the call before he could respond, the familiar mixture of disappointment and resignation washing over her. Of course, Marcus had found a way to sabotage his success. He always did. Is Uncle Marcus in trouble? Harper asked in a small voice. Olivia glanced at her daughter, seeing the worry in her eyes. She softened her tone. He's made some poor choices, honey, but we're going to sort it out. By the time they arrived home, Olivia had pushed down her anger enough to present a calm facade. She quickly prepared a simple pasta dinner, and within 20 minutes, William and Eleanor were at the door bearing a store-bought cheesecake. Where's Marcus? Eleanor asked immediately, looking past Olivia into the house. His car isn't outside. He's running late, Olivia replied, ushering them in. Harper, why don't you show Grandpa your science project while I help Grandma in the kitchen? Once Harper had led William to the living room, Olivia turned to her mother. Mom, there's something you should know about Marcus. Eleanor's face immediately hardened. If you're going to criticize your brother, Olivia, I don't want to hear it. He's working so hard on that pottery shop, and it's not easy being an entrepreneur. He missed his loan payment, Olivia said flatly. The shop is practically empty. He hasn't been making pottery for weeks, and he's working as a bartender while posting pool party photos on Instagram. Eleanor waved a dismissive hand. You always exaggerate when it comes to your brother. He's just going through a rough patch. Business has ups and downs. I co-signed for $70,000, Olivia reminded her. This isn't a small thing. Family helps family, Eleanor replied, the familiar refrain that had been wielded against Olivia her entire life. Before Olivia could respond, the doorbell rang. Marcus had arrived. He entered with his usual charisma, hugging Eleanor effusively, shaking William's hand and presenting Harper with a small gift, not handmade pottery. Olivia noticed but a mass-produced keychain from the resort gift shop. Sorry I'm late, everyone, he announced. Had a potential investor meeting run long. Could be huge news for Desert Bloom Pottery. William beamed with pride. That's my boy. Always the entrepreneur. Olivia caught Marcus's eye across the room, her expression making it clear she wasn't buying his performance. He looked away quickly. Dinner was a tense affair, at least for Olivia. Marcus regaled their parents with exaggerated tales of the shop's success while they hung on every word. Harper remained unusually quiet, picking at her pasta. When Eleanor and William stepped outside to take a phone call from a neighbor about their sprinkler system, Olivia finally confronted her brother. What happened to the money, Marcus? She asked, quietly conscious of Harper still at the table. He stared down at his plate. Cryptocurrency, he admitted after a long pause. This guy I met at the bar, he had this foolproof system, said it was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. And there it was, the twist that would change everything. Marcus had gambled the business loan on a crypto scheme, likely losing most of it. How much is left? She asked, her voice steady, despite the anger coursing through her. About $15,000, he admitted. But I can make it back, Liv. This new bartending gig pays well with tips, and I've got another investment opportunity that... Stop, she interrupted. Just stop. How could you do this again? Again? Harper asked, looking between them with confusion. Marcus had the grace to look ashamed. Harper, could you give your mom and me a minute? Once Harper had reluctantly left the table, Marcus leaned forward. I know I messed up, but I can fix this. I just need a little time. Time isn't going to magically create $55,000, Olivia said. The loan is in default, Marcus. If you can't make the payments, they'll repossess the BMW and I'll still be on the hook for whatever the difference is after they auction it. I know, he said, running his hands through his hair. But if you could just loan me a little more to tide me over. Are you serious right now? Olivia's voice rose despite her efforts to stay calm. After everything you're asking me for more money. Family helps family, he said, deploying their parents' favorite phrase like a shield. Before Olivia could respond, William and Eleanor returned immediately, sensing the tension. What's going on? Eleanor asked, looking between her children. Nothing, Marcus said quickly. Just a small disagreement about business strategy. Olivia stared at her brother, then at her parents, suddenly seeing with perfect clarity the dynamic that had shaped their family for decades. She was the responsible one, the safety net, the ATM. They were the takers, always with a handout and a guilt trip ready. As Eleanor launched into a story about a neighbor's garden disaster, Olivia made a decision. This cycle would end, and it would end now. When dinner finally concluded and her family prepared to leave, Olivia pulled Marcus aside one last time. You have 2 weeks, she told him quietly. 2 weeks to make the late payment and get current on the loan. After that, I'm calling Lane Foster and initiating repossession proceedings for the BMW. Liv, come on, Marcus pleaded. You wouldn't do that to me? 2 weeks, she repeated, holding his gaze. And if you miss another payment after that, I'll do the same thing. This stops now, Marcus. I'm not your personal bank anymore. As she watched them drive away, William and Eleanor in their aging Corolla, Marcus in his BMW purchased with borrowed money, Olivia felt a strange mixture of resolve and sadness. The ties that bound her to her family had always been partly financial, and she was about to discover what would remain when that connection was severed. Harper appeared beside her in the doorway. Are you and Uncle Marcus fighting? Olivia put an arm around her daughter's shoulders. Not fighting exactly, just sorting out some adult stuff. About money, Harper asked, perceptive as always. About boundaries, Olivia corrected gently. About what we owe each other as family and what we don't. As they closed the door and began clearing the dinner dishes together, Olivia wondered if Marcus would take her ultimatum seriously or if he truly believed she wouldn't follow through. She'd spent her entire adult life being the responsible one, the reliable one, the one who could always be counted on to help. But for the first time, she was considering what it might mean to put herself and Harper first. I'll now continue with part 2 of the story, aiming for approximately 3,000 words as requested. 2 weeks came and went with no word from Marcus. No payment, no phone call, not even a text. The familiar notification that had appeared regularly on Olivia's banking app, auto payment from Marcus Wilson $1.04, remained conspicuously absent. On the morning after the deadline passed, Olivia sat at her kitchen table staring at her phone. Harper had already left for school, the house quiet except for the soft hum of the refrigerator and the distant call of a mourning dove outside the window. She should call Lane Foster. She had been clear with Marcus about the consequences, and yet her finger hovered over the contact, reluctant to make the call that would set irrevocable events in motion. Her phone buzzed a text from Casey. Coffee break in 10. Need your eyes on this code snippet. Relieved by the distraction, Olivia replied with a thumbs up and moved to her home office, settling in front of her laptop. When Casey's face appeared on the screen a few minutes later, her friend took one look at her and frowned. What's wrong? You look like you haven't slept. Olivia sighed, rubbing her temples. Marcus missed his loan payment. The deadline I gave him was yesterday. Casey's expression shifted from concern to resignation. And now you're struggling with whether to follow through on the consequences. Am I that predictable? In the best way possible, Casey assured her. You're loyal, and you want to believe the best about people, especially family. Olivia took a sip from her coffee mug, grimacing at the now cold liquid. I told him I'd call Lane and start repossession proceedings on the BMW. But what if this ruins him? What if he really does have a plan to turn things around? Casey's gaze was steady through the screen. Liv, how many second chances has Marcus had? How many times have you bailed him out or your parents have? The question hung in the air, uncomfortable but necessary. Olivia knew the answer all too well. What would you tell Harper if she were in your shoes 20 years from now? Casey pressed. The question shifted something in Olivia's perspective. What would she want for her daughter? Certainly not this. Not the constant anxiety, the financial strain, the emotional manipulation disguised as family obligation. I'd tell her to protect herself, Olivia admitted. To set boundaries and stick to them. Casey nodded. Then maybe it's time you took your own advice. After their work session, Olivia made the call to Lane Foster. The conversation was brief and professional. Lane expressed appropriate regret, but assured her she was making the prudent financial decision. We'll send the repo team tomorrow morning, he explained. Once the vehicle is auctioned, we'll apply the proceeds to the outstanding loan balance and determine the remaining deficiency. And I'll be responsible for that deficiency, Olivia confirmed, her stomach tightening at the prospect. As co-signer, yes, Lane replied. But we can discuss payment arrangements when we reach that point. After ending the call, Olivia felt a strange sense of calm. The decision had been made. The wheels were in motion. There was no turning back now. She expected to hear from Marcus immediately after the repo team contacted him, but her phone remained silent throughout the day. When Harper returned from school, Olivia maintained a cheerful facade, helping with homework and preparing dinner as if nothing significant had happened. It wasn't until after Harper's bedtime that her phone finally lit up with Marcus's name. You actually did it, he said when she answered, his voice a mixture of disbelief and anger. They're coming for the BMW tomorrow. I told you they would, Olivia replied, keeping her voice steady. You had 2 weeks to make the payment. Do you have any idea what this will do to me? To my credit, to my reputation. Olivia felt a flare of indignation. Your credit, your reputation. What about mine? I co-signed that loan, Marcus. This affects me just as much as you. Then help me, he hissed. One more loan, just enough to cover this payment and get back on track. No, Olivia said firmly. No more loans, no more bailouts. This ends now. Family helps family. Marcus insisted, their parents' mantra sounding increasingly hollow with each repetition. That's supposed to go both ways, Olivia countered. When have you ever helped me, Marcus? When have you ever put someone else's needs before your own? The silence on the other end of the line told her everything she needed to know. The repo team will be at the shop at 10 tomorrow, she said finally. Make sure the car is accessible. You'll regret this, Marcus warned, his voice hardening. Mom and Dad will never forgive you for this. I'm starting to think that their forgiveness isn't worth the price I've been paying for it, Olivia replied, surprised by the clarity of the thought as she voiced it. She ended the call and sat in the dark living room, the weight of decades of family dynamics pressing down on her. Marcus was right about one thing: their parents would take his side. They always did. The golden child could do no wrong, and the responsible one was expected to sacrifice endlessly without complaint. Her phone buzzed again, a text from Marcus. You've changed, Liv. You used to care about family. She typed back, I still care about family. That's why I'm doing this. Real family doesn't exploit each other. There was no reply. The next morning, Lane Foster sent her a live feed link from the repo driver. Olivia hesitated before clicking it, unsure if she wanted to witness what was about to unfold. But some part of her needed to see this through to know that she had finally held firm on a boundary. The video showed the storefront of Desert Bloom Pottery, the once vibrant shop now looking neglected, the sign swinging slightly in the morning breeze. Marcus paced in front, still wearing what appeared to be last night's clothes phone pressed to his ear. The timestamp showed 9:57 a.m. A flatbed tow truck rolled into view, parking across the street. 2 men in high-visibility vests emerged, clipboard in hand. Olivia watched as they approached Marcus, who immediately became animated, gesturing wildly. Though there was no audio, she could imagine the scene: Marcus deploying his charm, making excuses, perhaps even trying to bargain. The repo men remained impassive, one pointing to the paperwork while the other began examining the BMW parked nearby. Marcus's gestures became more frantic. He stepped between the second man and the car, still talking rapidly. The first repo man made a call, presumably to confirm the repossession order. After a brief conversation, he nodded to his partner. They moved with practiced efficiency, one distracting Marcus while the other quickly hooked up the BMW. Marcus lunged for the driver's door of the repo truck, but the first man smoothly sidestepped, blocking his access. Within minutes, the BMW was secured to the flatbed chains, clanking as the hydraulics lifted it. A small crowd of tourists had gathered on the sidewalk, some with phones out, capturing the drama. The repo truck pulled away, and Marcus chased it for half a block, before stopping, hands on his knees, watching as it turned the corner and disappeared. The video feed ended. Olivia set down her phone, a complex mix of emotions washing over her. Relief that it was done. Sadness for what it represented. Worry about the financial fallout still to come. And underneath it all, a small, growing sense of liberation. Her phone rang again. Lane Foster. "It's done," he confirmed. "The vehicle will go to auction next week. I'll keep you updated on the results." "Thank you," Olivia said. "What happens next?" "Once the auction is complete, we'll apply the proceeds to the outstanding balance. Based on the vehicle's condition and current market value, we're likely looking at a deficiency of around $40,000 to $45,000. The figure made Olivia wince, but it wasn't unexpected. "And then we'll file for a deficiency judgment against both you and Marcus. It becomes an unsecured debt at that point. We can discuss payment arrangements, or you have the option to pursue Marcus for his share." After the call, Olivia opened her banking app and stared at the recurring transfers scheduled for her parents. Rent, utilities, internet, nearly $1,700 in total, set to pull from her account in 2 days. Her finger hovered over the first item, $1,300 for rent, scheduled to transfer on the first of the month as it had for 8 years. With the looming deficiency judgment on Marcus's loan continuing, these payments would stretch her finances dangerously thin. Harper's needs braces a school trip next spring. The college fund that was growing too slowly would have to come first. Taking a deep breath, Olivia toggled the recurring payment to off. A confirmation banner appeared. Scheduled payment canceled. She proceeded to disable the remaining transfers for utilities and internet. For the first time in 8 years, Olivia's parents would be financially on their own. She knew the fallout would be swift and dramatic. Eleanor would call, voice quivering with indignation and hurt. William would likely deploy his health issues as leverage. Marcus would undoubtedly use it as evidence of her betrayal. But as she closed the app and turned to her work, Olivia felt a strange sense of peace descending. The choices she had made that morning were long overdue, painful but necessary steps toward reclaiming her own financial and emotional well-being. Later that afternoon, Lane sent her the online auction listing for the BMW. Starting bid $25,000, no reserve. Bidding would close in 3 days. By evening, her phone was buzzing constantly with notifications from the family group chat. She muted it without reading the messages, focusing instead on helping Harper with a science project on desert conservation. "Mom," Harper asked as they worked side by side at the kitchen table, "is everything okay with Uncle Marcus? You seem stressed." Olivia considered how much to share with her perceptive daughter. "Uncle Marcus and I are having a disagreement about money," she said finally. "Sometimes adults have complicated relationships, especially around financial responsibilities." Harper nodded thoughtfully, gluing a small cactus made of felt onto their diorama. "Is that why you were watching that video of his car being taken away?" Olivia froze. "You saw that? I came in to ask about breakfast and you were watching it on your phone. You looked really sad." Setting down her scissors, Olivia turned to face her daughter fully. "I am sad, honey. It's hard when family doesn't treat each other with respect. Uncle Marcus borrowed a lot of money and wasn't paying it back like he promised." "So they took his car?" "Yes. It was part of the agreement when he borrowed the money. If he didn't pay, they could take the car and sell it to get some of the money back." Harper considered this. "That seems fair. If you borrow something, you should give it back or replace it." The simple wisdom of children, Olivia thought. "You're right. That is fair. But it's still hard when it happens with family. Will we still see Uncle Marcus and Grandma and Grandpa?" Olivia hesitated. "I'm not sure right now, honey. We might need some time apart from them while we sort things out." Harper seemed to accept this, returning to her project. But after a moment she asked, "Did Uncle Marcus lose all the money for his pottery shop?" "Most of it," Olivia admitted. "He made some bad choices." "That's really sad," Harper said. "His mugs were so pretty." That evening, after Harper was in bed, Olivia finally checked her phone. 27 missed calls, 15 from Marcus, 8 from her mother, 4 from her father. The family group chat had exploded with messages, most of them about her. Words like betrayal and abandonment featured prominently. She scrolled through quickly, not reading most of them, until a particular message from Marcus caught her eye. "Liv just canceled all financial support for Mom and Dad, too. Their rent is due in 2 days. Dad needs his insulin. This is how she treats family." Guilt twisted in her stomach, quickly followed by indignation. Their parents weren't destitute. They had Social Security income and Eleanor's part-time job. William's insulin was largely covered by Medicare. They had managed before Olivia started supporting them. They could manage again. Her phone rang again, Marcus, for the 16th time. This time she answered. "What do you want?" she asked, keeping her voice low to avoid waking Harper. "You've gone too far," he hissed. "Cutting me off is one thing. But Mom and Dad, they're in their 60s, Liv. Dad's health is precarious. How could you—" "They have income," Olivia replied steadily. "They've become dependent on my support, but they don't actually need it to survive." "Dad's insulin is covered by Medicare," she interrupted. "I've looked into it, Marcus. The basic insulin he needs is affordable with his coverage. The rent I've been paying is for a 3-bedroom house when they could downsize to something more manageable. The internet package I've been funding includes premium channels they barely watch." "So you're just abandoning them after everything they've done for you?" The question sparked something in Olivia, a sudden clear-eyed assessment of exactly what her parents had done for her over the years. "What have they done for me, Marcus? They drained my college fund to bail you out twice. They've consistently taken your side in every conflict. They've used guilt and emotional manipulation to extract financial support from me for years. So tell me, what exactly do I owe them?" Marcus was silent for a long moment. "Family helps family," he finally said, but the phrase sounded hollow even to him. "I'm done helping people who won't help themselves," Olivia replied. "And I'm done being the family ATM. You can tell Mom and Dad that if they need to downsize, I'm happy to help them find a more affordable place and even assist with moving, but the monthly payments are over." "They'll never forgive you for this," Marcus warned. "I'm starting to be okay with that," Olivia said, surprising herself with the truth of it. After ending the call, she blocked Marcus's number, then her parents as well. It was a temporary measure. She'd unblock them in a few days when the immediate crisis had passed. But for tonight, she needed peace. The next morning, Lane Foster emailed with an update. The online auction for the BMW was already attracting bids from dealerships in Phoenix and a collector in Sedona. The current high bid was $30,000 with 2 days still to go. Olivia replied with a brief acknowledgement, then turned to her work. The familiar routine of coding provided a welcome distraction from the family drama unfolding on her muted phone. By lunchtime, a familiar unease prompted her to check the family chat again. New messages had appeared, these addressing her directly, though they knew she wasn't responding. "Eleanor Olivia Grace Wilson, you answer your phone right now. Your father is beside himself with worry about the rent. William, after everything we've sacrificed for you, this is how you repay us. My blood pressure is through the roof because of this stress. Marcus update. Parents got eviction warning from landlord. First month ever they can't make rent. Hope you're proud of yourself, Liv." Attached was a photo of an official-looking notice, the words "Pay or Quit," visible in bold red letters. The timestamp showed it had been delivered that morning. Olivia stared at the image, the familiar tendrils of guilt and responsibility reaching for her. Then she remembered Harper's simple wisdom: if you borrow something, you should give it back or replace it. Her parents and Marcus had been borrowing from her money, her stability, her peace of mind for years with no intention of ever giving back. She turned off her phone entirely and returned to work. 3 days later, Lane Foster called with the auction results. "The BMW sold for $35,000, he reported. "After fees and expenses, we've applied $32,500 to the loan balance, leaving a deficiency of—" Olivia did the quick math. "$42,500 plus accrued interest," Lane confirmed. "We'll be filing the judgment lien against both you and Marcus this week. As co-signer, you're equally liable, but you do have the right to seek contribution from Marcus for his share." Olivia almost laughed at the idea of seeking money from Marcus. "Let's discuss payment arrangements," she said instead. "I want to be responsible about this." They settled on a monthly payment plan that was strict but manageable within Olivia's budget, especially now that she wasn't supporting her parents. Lane assured her that making consistent payments would protect her credit score from major damage. After the call, Olivia printed the auction receipt and deficiency notice, slipping them into an envelope addressed to her parents' home. No note, just the documentation of what had transpired. They deserved to know the financial reality she was facing as a result of helping Marcus. That evening, she finally turned her phone back on. The barrage of notifications was immediate voicemails, texts, missed calls. She deleted them all without listening or reading, then unblocked her family members. If they wanted to reach her, they could, but she would engage on her terms now. Harper found her sitting on the back patio watching the sunset paint the distant mountains in shades of pink and gold. "Are we okay, Mom?" she asked, settling into the chair beside Olivia. Olivia reached over to squeeze her daughter's hand. "We're more than okay, honey. We're finding our way to something better." "What about Grandma and Grandpa and Uncle Marcus?" Olivia chose her words carefully. "They need to learn to stand on their own feet. And we need to learn that helping someone doesn't mean carrying them forever." Harper nodded, seeming to understand more than Olivia had given her credit for. "Like in nature," she said, gesturing toward the desert beyond their yard. "Everything has to adapt and become strong to survive, but they also have systems where they help each other, like how the nurse plants protect cactus seedlings until they're strong enough to make it on their own." Olivia smiled, touched by her daughter's insight. "That's a perfect analogy. I've been a nurse plant for too long. It's time for everyone to develop their own roots." They sat in comfortable silence as the last rays of sunlight disappeared behind the mountains. The first stars appeared in the darkening sky, bright and unwavering. For the first time in years, Olivia felt the constriction around her chest beginning to loosen. The boundaries she had established today wouldn't be easy to maintain. There would be pushback guilt trips, maybe even some genuine hardship for her family. But they were necessary for her own survival, and ultimately for the health of her relationship with Harper, the one family member who truly deserved her unconditional support. Tomorrow would bring new challenges. But tonight, in this moment of hard-won peace, Olivia allowed herself to simply breathe. "I'll rewrite Part 3 with a more condensed approach, aiming for approximately 2,000 words while maintaining the key elements of the story." The pounding at the front door started at 1:13 a.m., each strike against the wood reverberating through Olivia's quiet house like a thunderclap. She jolted awake, heart racing, as she fumbled for her phone. 3 weeks had passed since she'd cut financial ties with her family, 3 weeks of blessed silence after the initial barrage of calls and messages had tapered off. A crash from down the hall sent ice through her veins, Harper's bedroom door slamming. "Mom!" Harper's voice high and thin with fear. "Stay there, honey," Olivia called back, already moving toward her closet for the baseball bat. "Lock your door." Another round of pounding followed by Marcus's slurred voice. "Open the damn door, Olivia. We need to talk." Olivia pulled up the Ring app, revealing Marcus swaying on her front porch, disheveled and clutching a nearly empty bottle. "You ruined my life," he shouted, striking the door again. "Everything's gone because of you." From Harper's room came a soft whimper. Olivia dialed 911. "There's an intoxicated man pounding on my door, threatening me," she told the dispatcher, her voice low and steady. "It's my brother. I have a 12-year-old daughter in the house." After confirming they were safe inside with doors locked, the dispatcher assured her officers were 4 minutes away. Olivia retrieved Harper from her bedroom, taking her to the master bedroom where they could lock themselves in until help arrived. On her phone screen, Olivia watched Marcus kick at her door before the sound of approaching sirens made him freeze. 2 patrol cars pulled into her driveway, lights flashing across the lawn, illuminating Marcus as he weaved unsteadily on the sidewalk. The officers quickly apprehended him, confiscating the bottle and guiding him to a patrol car in handcuffs. Officer Reyes took Olivia's statement while his partner, Officer Chen, gently distracted Harper in the kitchen. "We'll book him for disorderly conduct," Officer Reyes explained after reviewing the footage. "Based on this and your statement, I strongly recommend filing for an emergency restraining order tomorrow." "A restraining order against my brother." The words felt surreal to Olivia. "Ms. Wilson, this kind of behavior often escalates." Officer Reyes replied, his expression sympathetic but firm. "A restraining order creates legal consequences if he returns." After the officers left with Marcus, Olivia found Harper at the kitchen island, a mug of hot chocolate in front of her. "Is Uncle Marcus going to jail?" Harper asked, her voice small. "Just for tonight to sober up," Olivia answered gently. "He made some bad choices." "He sounded really mad at you." "He is," Olivia acknowledged. "He thinks I should have kept helping him financially, even when he wasn't making good decisions with money." Harper leaned against her mother. "That's not fair to you." "No, it's not," Olivia agreed. "And it's okay to set boundaries with people we love when they aren't treating us well." The next day, Olivia filed for the emergency protective order at the courthouse, 200 yards, no contact of any kind. Marcus signed it under duress at the station, his bloodshot eyes glaring from the mugshot attached to the file. That evening, Olivia ordered smart locks for their doors, installing them herself with Harper's help. The deadbolt slid into place with a reassuring chime. but for weeks afterward, Harper slept with her desk lamp on door slightly ajar. The restraining order's first violation came just 2 nights later, an anonymous 2 a.m. call traced to a burner phone purchased near the Copper Lounge where Marcus worked. A citation was issued with a $500 fine, suspended if there were no further violations. Marcus didn't call again. Instead, William and Eleanor took up the campaign, appearing at the gates of Olivia's workplace during evening rush hour. Eleanor clutched a cardboard sign reading "Ungrateful Daughter," while William balanced on his cane nearby. Security escorted them to the property line with a verbal trespass warning. From her third-floor window, Olivia watched the scene unfold, stomach-knotting with guilt and resentment. The company's legal counsel sent a cease and desist letter, which Eleanor signed for 2 days later. They didn't return to the office, but William left a pointed voicemail at reception. "Tell Olivia her father's insulin costs money." Meanwhile, Harper began meeting with the school counselor, developing coping strategies for her newfound anxiety about unexpected noises and visitors. During a parent consultation, Dr. Martinez assured Olivia that Harper was showing remarkable resilience. "She speaks very highly of you," the counselor said. "She describes you as her safe person and says she's proud of how you're handling a difficult family situation." The unexpected praise brought tears to Olivia's eyes. In the chaos of setting boundaries, she had worried constantly about Harper. Hearing that her daughter felt secure despite the surrounding turmoil was profoundly reassuring. As weeks passed, the acute crisis eased. Through distant cousins, Olivia occasionally received updates. Her parents had received their eviction notice, moving to a Motel 6 off I-10. Marcus, having lost his bartending job after the arrest, was driving for Uber Eats, in a borrowed Civic, sleeping in his car in various parking lots around Tucson. The family narrative had solidified Olivia was the villain who had abandoned her family in their time of need. But she maintained her silence, neither defending herself nor engaging with the rumors. The boundaries she had established weren't for show, they were necessary protection for herself and Harper. And rebuild they did. With the financial burden lifted, Olivia accelerated Harper's college fund contributions and scheduled the braces her daughter needed. She began therapy herself, working through the complex emotions of setting boundaries after decades of compliance. 1 year after cutting ties, Olivia received an unexpected letter in the mail. The envelope was postmarked Tucson, no return address. Her name scrolled in shaky blue ink, Marcus's handwriting. She opened it carefully, finding 3 pages torn from a yellow legal pad stained with coffee rings. "Sis, I was wrong. I see it now. The shop, the car, the rent, everything. I took you for granted for years, and I'm sorry. Dad's diabetes got worse after we moved to the motel. The doctors say he might lose his foot if we don't get him to a specialist soon. Mom's working double shifts at the dollar store, but it's not enough. We're staying with a friend from the casino now. I've been sober for 3 months. That night at your house, I don't remember most of it, but I know I scared Harper. I've never hated myself more than when I saw her face in that police body cam footage. I know I have no right to ask anything of you, but we're still family. Live. One last chance. Please." Your brother Marcus. Olivia read the letter twice, emotions cycling through her. Harper entered the kitchen, now 14, growing taller every day. "What's that?" she asked, glancing at the letter. "It's from Uncle Marcus," Olivia replied honestly. "He's apologizing and asking for help with Grandpa's medical bills." Harper considered this while pouring her cereal. "Are you going to help them?" The old patterns tugged at Olivia, the ingrained responsibility, the guilt over her father's health, the belief that family helps family. But she also remembered the midnight pounding Harper's terror and the cryptocurrency scheme that had cost her $42,000. "No," she said finally. "I'm not." She folded the letter and slid it into the trash beneath yesterday's coffee grounds. The action was deliberate, final. Harper nodded. "Boundaries," she said, the counselor's term now part of her vocabulary. "Boundaries," Olivia confirmed. That afternoon she drafted a single postcard, plain white, no picture. On it she wrote 5 words, "We are no longer family." She mailed it without a return address or signature. 3 weeks later, a cousin sent a text. "Thought you should know Uncle William is in the hospital. Diabetic shock. Not looking good." The image of William in a hospital bed stirred complex emotions in Olivia. After consulting with Harper, who chose to stay home, Olivia went to the hospital alone with Casey, waiting in the cafeteria for support. William's room was hushed except for beeping monitors. Olivia sat beside his bed, surprised by how diminished he appeared, skin ashen cheeks, sunken oxygen flowing through a nasal cannula. His eyes fluttered open. "Livy," he murmured, using her childhood nickname. "Hi, Dad." "You came." His voice was barely audible. "I did." William's gaze held hers surprisingly lucid. "I know we hurt you. I was a coward. Let your mother and Marcus run roughshod. Easier than standing up to them." The unexpected acknowledgement caught Olivia off guard. "Why now? Nothing like dying to clarify your mistakes." A ghost of his former wry humor crossed his face. "Too late to fix most of them." "I needed you to be my father, not just Marcus's," Olivia said, a lump forming in her throat. "I needed you to see me. I saw you. Reliable Olivia, strong Olivia, didn't need me like he did." He paused, breathing labored. "Laziness on my part. Pride, too. Easier to focus on the broken wheel." The simple admission, not quite an apology, but an acknowledgement, released something within Olivia. Silent tears spilled over. "Harper," William asked, "how is she?" "She's good. Growing up fast. Smart kind. Strong." William nodded slightly. "Like her mother. Tell her Grandpa was proud of her. And her mother." Eleanor's return interrupted their moment. She stood frozen in the doorway, coffee cup in hand, shock evident on her face. "I'm not here to reconcile," Olivia said firmly. "I'm here to say goodbye to Dad." Eleanor's face hardened, but William intervened weakly from the bed. "Eleanor, let her be." The unexpected support from William shifted something in the dynamic. As Olivia prepared to leave, William made one final statement. "The money, the support, we took advantage. I'm sorry. You did right setting boundaries, protecting Harper, yourself." The words were a gift. Olivia had never expected validation that her difficult decisions had been justified. "Thank you, Dad," she said softly before departing. William passed away 4 days later. At his funeral, Olivia sat in the back, avoiding confrontation. As the chapel emptied, Marcus spotted her. Instead of approaching, he simply nodded once acknowledgement rather than reconciliation, before following Eleanor toward the waiting cars. 1 year after William's death, Olivia and Harper moved to a quiet subdivision north of Tucson. The new house, a 2-story adobe with a view of the Catalina foothills, represented a fresh start, a physical manifestation of the emotional boundaries Olivia had established. Harper, now 15, thrived in the new environment. She had discovered a passion for woodworking, creating increasingly intricate pieces in her garage workshop. Her cedar jewelry box, with its dovetail joints and hidden compartment, took second place at the county fair, the blue ribbon displayed proudly on their mantel. Life had found a new rhythm, peaceful, productive, occasionally punctuated by memories of the family they had left behind, but never dominated by them. Therapy had helped both Olivia and Harper process their complex emotions, with Harper's counselor declaring her remarkably resilient with healthy boundary awareness unusual for her age. On a crisp fall morning, Olivia and Harper hiked up Sabino Canyon, pausing at a scenic overlook where the city of Tucson spread below them like a patchwork quilt. "Mom," Harper asked, adjusting her backpack, "do you ever miss them? Grandma and Uncle Marcus?" Olivia watched an eagle soar on thermal currents above the canyon. "I miss who I thought they were," she answered honestly. "I miss the idea of family I grew up believing in. But the reality, no, I don't miss being used as an ATM or having my boundaries violated." Harper nodded thoughtfully. "Dr. Martinez says family is about mutual respect and support, not just blood. She says some people have to create their own family of choice." "She's right," Olivia agreed. "And we've done that, haven't we? You and me, Casey and her family, our neighbors, my colleagues. People who care about our well-being, not just what we can provide." They continued their hike as the sun dipped toward the mountains, painting the sky in shades of orange and gold. "I'm proud of us, Mom," Harper said simply as they neared the trailhead. Olivia squeezed her daughter's hand, heart full. "Me too, honey. Me too." Later that evening, as Harper worked in her garage workshop, Olivia sat on their back patio watching stars emerge in the desert sky. The peace she had fought so hard to achieve wrapped around her like a comfortable blanket. Family isn't an ATM, she reflected. Blood doesn't entitle endless withdrawal. When you stop giving the masks fall away, you see who stayed for love and who stayed for convenience. Peace wasn't dramatic. It was quiet mornings free from dread. No automatic drafts depleting her accounts. No midnight knocks disturbing her sleep. The lesson had stuck embedded in both their lives. Protect your peace. Test boundaries. Commit to changes. Deploy without regret. In the desert night under stars that had witnessed countless human struggles, Olivia Wilson closed her eyes and breathed deeply, finally completely free.